Census takers visit nearby homes, interview residents, and collect census responses in person using a mobile app. They are an essential part of the census process and help bring political representation and federal funding for schools, highways, healthcare, social services, and housing to our communities. As a census taker, you would work part-time for the U.S. Census Bureau between May 2020 and July 2020. You can set your own work schedule, preferably during evenings and weekends, and will be paid between $25 and $30 per hour on a weekly basis in the San Francisco Bay Area. Any income earned from this temporary work will not affect your eligibility for federal assistance programs. As a census taker, you are working for the federal government, so you must be a U.S. citizen 18 years or older by January 2020. Work-authorized bilingual non-citizens may be hired if the Census Bureau has needs for your language skills. So if you are fluent in a second language, we highly encourage you to apply. However, all census takers are required to be able to speak, read, and write in English. Because census takers will be visiting nearby communities, most will need to have a valid driver's license and access to a vehicle. The Census Bureau will reimburse you for your mileage and travel expenses. All workers will need to pass a federal background check, which includes fingerprinting. If there is any issue that arises during the background check that affects your eligibility for the job, the Census Bureau will contact you with further instructions. Lastly, if you are a male candidate who was born after 1960, you must be registered with the Selective Service System or have a qualifying exemption. If you meet these requirements, you are eligible to work as a census taker. Note that there is no work or education requirement. All training will be provided to you if you are hired. To work as a census taker, you must submit an online application by January 2020. The application includes an assessment and should take a total of approximately 30 minutes to complete. Because English proficiency is a requirement for the job, the application must be completed in English. However, the assessment can be completed in English or Spanish. If you take the assessment in Spanish, you will be asked to take an additional English proficiency test. You will also be asked if you would also like to be considered for a supervisory role. A field supervisor will oversee the work of a group of census takers in an assigned area. If you are interested, you do not need to submit a separate application, but you will be asked to take an additional supervisor assessment to evaluate your qualifications. If you submit an application and are an eligible candidate, you will be contacted for a phone interview sometime between January and March 2020. The phone interview will be brief since it's just to validate the information on your application. If you are offered the job at this point, it will be contingent upon you passing a federal background check, which includes fingerprinting paid for by the Census Bureau. You will need to complete your background check by March 2020 to be hired as a census taker. Once hired, you will participate in paid training between March and May 2020. The training will mostly take place online, so you'll need to have access to a computer. Once you complete your training, you will be assigned work between April and July 2020. To submit an online application, visit www.2020census.gov/jobs. Click on the button that says First-Time Applicants Register Here. You will be prompted to create a profile that includes your email address and a new password. Once you click Create Profile, you will need to log into your email account to complete the process. If you're on a public computer, such as at a library, be sure to not let the web browser save any of your passwords. The email from the Census Bureau should come from an address called noreply@csod.com. Make sure to carefully check the sender of census-related emails before you click on any links. Once you click the link to complete your registration, you'll be asked to enter your zip code of residence. Once that is completed, you'll be able to view your Applicant Portal page. This is where you'll be able to see the status of your application over the next few months. Right now, the application status should say, "Not yet started." Click on the red button on the right that says "Apply" to get started. Again, the application and assessment should take about 30 minutes. You can save your work and continue the application portion at a later time. But if you fill out the assessment in Spanish, the English proficiency test has a time limit and will need to be completed in one session. Before you begin your application, you must accept and e-sign the statement on your screen before you can continue. This statement verifies that the information you enter in the application is true and that your e-signature, like paper signatures, is legally binding. The following pages request your personal information such as your social security number, home address with your nearest cross streets, and your citizenship or permanent resident status. If you are a male candidate, you will be asked to enter your selective service number. There will be a link for you to click if you need help finding your number. The later sections of the application ask about any history serving in the military or working for the government. Veterans may be eligible for preferential hiring if you can present the appropriate paperwork. Lastly, you will be asked to provide information about the languages you speak fluently, your schedule of availability, and your access to transportation. This information helps the Census Bureau provide appropriate work assignments to candidates. Once you complete this portion of the application, you'll be asked to provide a second electronic signature. Following that, there is a brief section called Additional Applicant Information that asks for demographic information. You are not required to submit answers to these questions, and the information cannot be used to determine your eligibility to work for the Census Bureau. You will need to answer a 33-question assessment in order to complete the application and be considered for a census job. Think of the assessment like a paper version of an interview. It's less of a test and more of an opportunity for you to share about yourself and your working style. For instance, the two examples provided in the instructions page ask about your self-discipline and whether you like being the center of attention. The assessment should take you about 10 minutes and must be completed by you, the job applicant. You must answer the questions yourself without the assistance of others and provide your electronic signature to verify that you completed it on your own. Before you begin, you'll be able to select whether you would like to complete the assessment in English or in Spanish. If you complete the assessment in Spanish, you'll be asked to take an additional 2-part adult English proficiency test, which you will have 15 minutes to complete. You will also be able to select if you would like to be considered for a supervisory position. If so, you will also be asked to take an additional 9-question assessment. Once you finish your assessments and submit your final electronic signature, your application is officially being considered by the Census Bureau. There are 2 ways to confirm that you are finished with this portion of the process. First, you will receive another email from the Census Bureau stating that your application status has been updated. Second, you will see on your Applicant Portal page that your status has changed and that your application can be considered for employment. Note the menu options on the right side of this page. You can download and save or print your completed application forms for reference, and you can also update the information you've provided, such as your address. Remember that phone interviews and background checks will be conducted between January and March 2020. You must also pass your background check before you are officially hired and can begin training. The Census Bureau will be contacting you via email, so be sure to check your email or log back into the portal regularly to check the status of your application and to update any information such as your new address if you move. If you have any questions about your application, you can contact the U.S. Census Bureau at 1-855-JOB-2020. That's 1-855-562-2020. When prompted, select option 3 and enter your zip code to be connected to the appropriate office. Thank you for doing your part to help our communities get counted in the 2020 census. And don't forget to get counted yourself. Because when we get counted, everyone benefits. If you would like to receive more information about the census from Bay Area Counts 2020, text the word COUNT to 415-340-7170 or visit uwba.org/census.